Salve, Aiden, good to be with you. So we're on lesson 7 here in our second form material. You're doing great. Keep up the good work. I know this is a little bit of a challenge, but based on the work you've turned in, I think you're doing quite well with this material. Okay, lesson 7. We are on pronouns. Now, a pronoun takes the place of a noun. The noun is in the antecedent, and the pronoun is going to take its place. Okay, so it would work out like this. I saw Mary walking. She was walking her dog. She refers to Mary. That's all a pronoun is. Now, the pronouns we're dealing today are personal pronouns. They are not possessive pronouns. When it comes to possessive pronouns, that's in lesson 8. Make sure, that's going to be in lesson 9. Yeah, that's your possessive pronouns. These pronouns and the ones in the next chapter lesson are just personal pronouns, and these are first person pronouns. So think I, we, us, me. That's what we're dealing with right here. Okay, so I'll pronounce the ones on the chart on page 26. Ego, mei, mihi, may, nos, nostri, nostrum, nobis, nos, nobis. Memorize that chart, shouldn't take you very long. Now, look at the genitive plural. You have nostri and you have nostrum, and there's a little bit of footnote right there that takes us to the bottom of page 26. Nostri is the objective genitive. Nostrum is what's called a partitive genitive. So if you want to say part of something, like part of us, you're going to use nostrum. Nostri is the objective genitive. There's going to be a noun, and then it's going to be of us. Okay, so if it's part of us, it's nostrum. If it's some other object like fear of us, you're gonna use nostri. Okay, that's all that is. All right, you have some vocab. The vocab, all feminine, first declension nouns. Arum, sis. You'll have no problem declining those. Okay, so again, pronoun takes the form. The pronoun takes the place of the noun and the antecedent. These are not possessive pronouns. Now, it also is worth mentioning, why do we have pronouns to begin with if in Latin you have right here, ego, Mariam, amo? Why can't you just say Mariam, amo? I love Mary. Because as we've mentioned numerous times in here, the subject of a Latin sentence is in a verb. A Latin complete sentence in Latin can contain only one word. It's in the verb. In the verb, you have the subject and the verb itself. If I say ambulo, I am saying in Latin, I am walking. Ambulamus, we are walking. Navigatis, you plural are sailing. One word in Latin constitutes a complete English sentence with a subject and a verb. The pronoun adds emphasis. So getting back to the book's example, if you say Mariam amo, so Maria is in the accusative case, it's direct object. Mariam amo, I love Mary. If you want to really emphasize it, you're going to say ego Mariam amo, I love Mary. So that's what the pronoun is doing right there in these personal pronouns. And of course, in other cases, it can take the place of the noun. All right, let's go to the workbook and talk about some of the things in your workbook. So lesson 7. All right, number 1, I've talked about number 1. What does a pronoun do? That's pretty simple. Now, what kind of pronouns are there? Aiden, to figure this out, just go to the unit review, flip back. Let's see, I'm on page 26. If you flip back, page 24, it's all right there, the types of pronouns. I mean, that's a question you don't know yet because you haven't learned all the pronouns, but go to the front of the unit and you'll figure it out. What is an antecedent, all right? An antecedent, well, here, the antecedent is the noun the pronoun is referring to, okay? All right, give the adjective agreement rule and the pronoun agreement rule. I'm going to talk about these. Remember, adjectives and nouns, when they go together, the noun and the adjective have to agree in case, number, and gender. They all have to be there, okay? When you're dealing with a pronoun, the pronoun has to agree with the antecedent in gender and number, not necessarily case. The pronoun is going to be in the case that is relative to its clause. So whatever case it needs to be in here to function, that's how it's going to be. But it does match the antecedent in number and gender. That's the pronoun agreement rule, whereas the adjective, it's case, number, and gender. They have to match, all right? Looking for some other things. Oh, yeah, so the genitive of the first person pronouns. Remember, I said these pronouns are not used for possession, okay? Even though when we hear genitive case, we think possession. That's where our minds go, as it should. But here, these first person pronouns are used to show of expressions, okay? Like the fear of God, okay? We're not saying it's God's fear, a fear that he possesses, like he's afraid of something, but it's objective. The fear of God, what we were saying is our fear in him. Okay, that's the kind of fear we're talking about. It is a godly fear, not that God possesses fear of something, all right? So to say of expressions, the first person possessive pronouns here are going to be used for that, all right? So that's your answer for number 7, but they are not used to show possession. We'll get to those in a couple other lessons. Okay, moving on page 43, I see writing out that paradigm. Ego, mehi, mihi, me, nos, nostri, nostrum, nobis, nos, nobis. Have that memorized, write it out. That's pretty simple. Drill A at the bottom, more of the same, just giving a translation of what's required there. Then you get to some bigger translations on page 44, okay? That shouldn't give you any problems. Just pay attention, translate the verbs if you need to by going back to the index in your book. If you have them by memory, that's great. If you have any questions, Aiden, have your mom or your dad FaceTime me, and we can talk, you and I, and I'll answer any questions that you have. All right, at the bottom, drill B, more translation stuff. And at the bottom, on exercise B, okay, it says here, translate with indirect object word order, not with the preposition to. So in the dative case, when you're dealing with indirect object, you can use word order, or you can use the preposition to. So for number 1, mihi equum dot. Mihi equum dot. You could say, he, she, or it dot gives to me a horse. He or she or it gives to me a horse. That is an acceptable translation of that. So we're using to, that preposition for the dative. Now the instructions have said don't do that. It wants word order. So you could say, he, she, or it gives me a horse. He, she, or it gives me a horse. Notice there's no to in that translation. So here it is when you're using the preposition to. He, she, it gives to me a horse, or gives a horse to me. That sounds better. That's using to. Or you can say, he, she, or it gives me a horse. Hear the difference. Okay, hear the difference. Mark gives a rose to Mary. Mark gives Mary a rose. Hear the difference. Both use indirect object. Both are acceptable translations. The directions here want you to use word order, not the preposition to. Full disclosure, I'd rather use the preposition, but let's abide by the directions and do it as the book requests. Derivatives on page 45. At the bottom of page 45, some genitive case review. Genitive case, and it's going to use an IR noun, some ER nouns. You may have to go back and watch some of those nouns, those ER and IR nouns, second declension nouns that are a little different than the typical second declension oos nouns we've worked with, but nothing that you can't do, Aiden. Just think, and to be sure, they're not all second declension nouns. That's apparent in the exercise. I don't think I have any problems with those. Just think genitive case or genitive case. A lot of expressions here, and some possessive stuff here as well. Yeah. So like number 1, aqua vitae, vita. You're dealing with first declension stuff. Is, as, is. That's going to be the water of life. That's an of expression. But then magistri liber. Magistri liber. Liber is book, and then magister. Magistri, the E drops out. It's an ER noun. It's going to be the book of the teacher, or the teacher's book. There's that possessive aspect of the genitive coming out, the teacher's book. All right, I think I've said enough. If you have questions, Aiden, FaceTime me. I'll be happy to talk you through this stuff. But just put in the time and the work, you can do this. I'm proud of your labor, man. Please keep it up. Vale.